All right, welcome to season 2, Real with Omar. Today's special guest is Jessica Figueroa, who is an attorney. You might know her through social media, who is an attorney as well as a broker owner of Noel Antonio Properties, right? Jessica and I go back about, I don't want to say it.
A long time.
Long time when she was in college. That's how far back we go. And she's like 27 now. So, you know what I'm saying? Not that long ago. So I met her before she was an attorney. She was a paralegal at Rodriguez and Fuentes. And then you got your law degree.
Yep.
And then what happened next? Let's go, let's get to the evolution.
Okay, so we're going way back. All right, so once I got my law degree, I started exploring different areas of law. Well, let me backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
When we met at Rodriguez and Fuentes, I was exploring different.
Shout out to Tanya.
Yes, because she really
another
did.
Good friend. Yeah,
she really did sprout this.
Yeah.
But at Rodriguez and Fuentes, that was a general practice firm.
Right.
So I was able to get a little taste of different areas of law. Tanya decided to explore a different position in the city, and so her real estate department fell on my lap. Before she left, she started training me.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up falling into real estate. I ended up actually really liking it because I'm a super type A personality, and transactions goes along with my organization and my need to get things done quick and efficiently, right? So real estate spoke to me.
Right. It spoke your language.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I, going into law school, I already had the real estate mindset, and I was like, I'm sticking to real estate.
So that was already. That was
already in my head.
That was the end game already. We just had to get the license and all that to get
Correct.
there. Okay.
So right before starting law school, I ended up venturing. I told Mr. Rodriguez, who was the senior partner at the firm, that I wanted to explore.
The godfather of us all.
Yes, I wanted to explore bigger transactions and commercial real estate. So with his blessing, he said, "Go for it." I ended up working at a title insurance company, First American, one of the biggest in the industry.
Right.
So I went to work for First American in Midtown and got my hands-on experience on huge commercial transactions from an underwriting standpoint on the title side.
Okay.
That's when I started law school.
Okay.
So in law school, I told myself I'm staying with title and I'll become an underwriter.
That was the plan originally.
That was the plan.
All right.
I'll become an underwriter with my degree. And I did do that. I stuck with it. But in the midst of sticking with, I graduated law school, still in title. At that point, I was now with Commonwealth under the Fidelity umbrella, which is another big
title company.
Yep.
Right.
So stuck with title, but I missed the connection with my clients. So when you're in the commercial world, you don't really get to sit down with your clients, especially as a title underwriter. Before, in the private practice, I was sitting with my clients at closing, sitting with them.
Just to clarify to the people that might not know, title underwriting, basically, she is responsible for the chain of, or the history of the property. Really nothing to do with the person.
Correct.
So your responsibility was making sure the property had no clouds.
Correct.
And the chain was unbroken, and conveyance was all clear, so that your relationship was really kind of just with a piece of land or a building.
So the way that I explain it to my clients is the title company is the referee in the transaction, right? They're the ones that make sure the documents are done correctly, the parties know what they're doing, that everything gets on record correctly, that there's no blemishes, no issues, no liens, debts, or encumbrances on the property. I'm promising the buyer that what you're buying is free and clear of any problems.
And in New York City, how important is title insurance?
I will not represent somebody if they don't want to get a title policy.
Okay. And why? But why is that? Just
That's
because some people are like, oh, I don't want to pay for an owner's policy. I'm like, oh, you absolutely should.
Even if it's optional, you absolutely should get an owner's policy because, first of all, from a basic standpoint, this is the biggest purchase you're going to make in your life.
Right.
Why would you skimp out on something that's meant to protect you? And it's meant to protect you because, again, the title company is promising you by creating a title report. They're doing a report, like a history report on the property. They're promising you that you have the top priority. You are the number one, you have the ownership right, top ownership right to this property. Nobody else supersedes you. So if somebody comes knocking on your door in a year and says, hold on, this was my house, my grandmother owned it, and I had a right to this, you're not supposed to be here, I'm suing you. Now you go back to your title company with the claim because title company, you promised me this wouldn't happen.
Right.
Without that, homegirl got the right to sue you. And
right, and the thing is, I just want to explain because some people don't understand.
Yep.
So let's say somebody says, oh, hey, because this has happened to a client of mine, in the private money world, because people mess around with deeds all day, right? So guy came up and was like, look, man, you guys can't sell these 3 families, these brownstones in Brooklyn for $3.5 million, whatever they were, because they sold it to you under false pretenses. So they went to court.
Yep.
They went to court and the guy won. but the title insurance had to pay the full claim to my client.
Yep.
So he won too. So they both won because he had a fully refurbished or refurnished or a rehabilitated 3-story brownstone, and my client got paid in full for everything.
Now, what happens if his client didn't have his title policy?
Right, he'd be out $3.5 million, right?
100%.
So that I think they have to understand, hey, this is why it's so important.
Right,
You know?
you're investing. Again, this is the biggest purchase you'll make in your life, right? You're putting in all your savings, all your money, what you've worked for years for into this property. Imagine somebody coming along and trying to swoop it out from underneath you.
And to look at it in a smaller mindset is like you have a car, right? You lease or you finance a car, right? You crash the car tomorrow, then what?
Call
You
your
still got your
insurance
mortgage, right? You still got a mortgage. If you don't have insurance, then basically that's the easiest way for people to understand it. Because
Yep.
people, pero es una, especially the Latinos, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that money. I'm like, yo, bro, you need to spend that money. And I told them, you got to stop looking at it as an expense and look at it as an investment.
Absolutely.
And that usually kind of changes their mind. All right, so that was title insurance.
That's title insurance.
All right, cool.
So after law school, I stuck with title insurance. I was doing that, but then I missed the connection with my clients because, as you said, title, I'm not dealing with the person, I'm dealing with the property.
Right.
And the people's attorneys.
Right.
Right?
And the property doesn't talk to you.
Correct. The property doesn't talk to you.
Right.
And I'm in an office behind a computer screen all day, nonstop. So I missed that connection with my residential clients. So I started doing that. I started dabbling in that again.
Okay, so you opened up
My private
Jessica
firm,
Figueroa,
law offices of
Jessica Figueroa, and then you started soliciting buyers and sellers.
Yeah, the reason that actually really started picking up, initially it was just, I'm gonna do this on the side, family, friends, referrals, whoever really needs me and knows that I do it. But then I bought a house in an area where there aren't many Spanish-speaking professionals.
Okay.
And so I was randomly at a pizzeria and I handed the guy my card, and I'm gonna speak in Spanish, but I basically said, si me necesita, me puede llamar. If you need me, you can give me a call. So here's my card. He goes, oh, you're an attorney. And then we started chatting. Coincidentally, 2 weeks later, hey, I'm buying a house, I need help. Sure.
Right.
So I was able to help him throughout the entire transaction in his native language, which made him feel more comfortable.
Right.
And we got him to the closing successfully. And he was happy. And I enjoyed that experience, again, that interaction. So that's why I was like, you know what? This is really where I have fun.
This is my why?
Yes,
This is my why.
This
Okay.
is my why.
So you found it.
Yeah, it reminded me of when I was a kid translating documents for my grandparents.
Right.
So like it really, it's just a different type of happiness for my clients. So
And I think we're in that last. I know I'm a little older than you by like a week, but we're that last generation of where, like I posted something today saying I'm from a generation that takes care of my parents as well as my kids, and I don't think our kids are gonna ever understand having to translate paperwork or having to go to a doctor's appointment with a family member and explain. Like that's gonna be a lost science, you know.
Yeah.
Like I believe that we're the last of that generation.
Absolutely, and and that stems from as far back as I can think of. I would have to translate at doctor's appointments, documents, make sure that I'm protecting them too in a different way.
So you were the lawyer back when you were a kid?
Yeah. And so it was nice to be able to do that. So that's why I started spearheading the business, and I got more.
All right. So you started
clients.
taking on clients, right?
Yep.
All right. And then how did we evolve from being an attorney to then transferring over into a brokerage, because that's now kind of the evolution of your career, right?
Yep.
So how did that happen?
Pretty easy answer. Basically, there's a lot of people out there that don't service their clients properly.
Okay, and we're talking about real estate.
Real estate.
Okay.
On sales side. I feel like a lot of people are out there to get a commission check and they forget why they're doing it. So I noticed that I was answering a lot of questions that in my head, it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, you're this far along in the process.
Why do you not know this?
Right, and nobody's kind of hand-holding you. So I said, you know what? I need to get to my clients before they're in contract. I need to better prepare them for this step.
Okay.
So that's why I decided to open up the brokerage. I said, you know what, I want to get people at the inception. When you get the idea of wanting to purchase a house, all right, let me help you and let me prep you for that.
Right.
What does that mean?
Let me explain the steps to you. Right.
Correct. So that's what was the driving force behind the brokerage. And I'm happy I did it because I think it does make a difference. My clients walk into their transactions with much more knowledge and preparation and confidence.
Right.
And that makes a difference on a deal.
Yeah, because most of the time they're scared, right? First-time home buyers especially. Even like your sophisticated buyers, lately I've been hearing that a lot, like from guys that repeat clients of mine, like, oh, but it's easy. I was like, no, it's not easy. I was like, when you bought your first home, it was really easy because that's the only thing we had to worry about. Now we have our fourth home, and now I have to go over to your DTI, I have to go into your cash, like I have to explain,
Correct.
we're doing global cash flow and
You can become more of a complicated borrower.
right, and people, I mean, but it was so easy the first time. I was like, yeah, but you didn't owe $2 million. Now you owe, $5 million. So now I got to justify how you can pay for all this. So
Right.
it becomes a little crazy, but they're just as, I believe, in need of like reinforcement. I think that's the way, because sometimes they feel like they know everything and then something happens and all of a sudden, they get a TOE letter and then everybody becomes, first time home buyer. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Oh, now TOEs are thrown around like confetti. A TOE is a time is of the essence. So that's basically the seller telling you, you need to close on this date or else. Nobody wants those.
Well, why would they do that? Because I want to dive into, so the market right now is super saturated. Right now it's really cool to be a realtor. I talk to the camera sometimes. It's really cool to be a loan officer. It's really cool to be a realtor. It's really cool to be an attorney. Why? Because right now, and it's not a shot at anybody in particular, but it's kind of easy. But what's happening is people are driving prices up and they're putting these high lists of demands or these crazy circumstances on transactions. And if they can't make that transaction, the TOE is thrown out really quickly because they want to either get you off and get another buyer that can possibly buy it or keep your down payment.
Right. I mean, you got to put yourself in the seller's shoes. They're sitting here just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for you to be clear. It's a seller's market. So if you're not going to be clear, they want to know immediately so they can move right on to the next person, probably for more money than what they have you in contract for. So like I tell my clients, it's a kind of a hostile approach sometimes, depending on the deal and the parties. But sometimes it's a necessary evil.
You've been on both sides?
As buyers and sellers?
Yeah. And when do you suggest to your client to throw a TOE letter at?
I always tell them we have to wait until we're in an unreasonable time frame.
And what is that?
I don't care if the contract says we're closing on June 1. If it's June 15, I am not issuing a TOE out of principle.
Okay.
I'm not doing it. That's just unreasonable. Right now, the lenders, I sympathize with you guys, because the lenders are overwhelmed.
Right.
There's a lot of loan applications. Not only are a lot of people buying and selling, but there's a lot of people refinancing. So now that double their workload would, it's double than what I'm dealing with. So it's taking longer to process the files.
And on that note, so we had COVID last year, right? And COVID in March, the banking industry released about, I would say, 40% of their workforce. They let them because they didn't know what was happening. They couldn't afford it. Nobody knew who was lending. Nobody was. So now then we have this rush on it, and now they're rehiring people that are not really as experienced. And that's where this bottleneck is coming from, because they'd rather hire 5 people at $20 an hour than one guy at $50 an hour or 2 guys at $50 an hour. So that's what I'm seeing. So I end up spending time educating underwriters, be like, no, you can omit that liability. And they're like, well, can you? I'm like, look at the guideline. And then that's the frustration from the originator standpoint. When we know more than the underwriter, it gets kind of crazy. But that's why we have the bottleneck.
Right. So, and we're diving into a separate little issue, but another little issue is, like you said, to be a real estate attorney right now, it's great because business is booming. However, there's a lot of attorneys that are not real estate experienced trying to dabble in it because of the profit.
Let's talk about that. Let me ask you a question. All right, so you get the guy who's a general practitioner who says, don't worry, I'll do it for $1,000.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Why should you use a real estate attorney compared to a general practitioner?
Okay. Because there's customs and there's the contract, right? Yes, your contract says, like I was beginning to say, June 1 is our closing date. Customarily, we are not going to attack the other party if it's June 15th and they're not ready to close yet. We have, especially if it's an on or about date, on or about June 1 means that they have extensions that are afforded to them. A lot of general practice attorneys don't know that. Then they come out very aggressive, and now it starts to create a stir that's unnecessary, which adds pressure to the deal and just stress to the deal, which is not going to help the deal.
Right.
And they also don't realize you got to coach your client throughout the whole process. So I tell my buyers, because I've had the experience, I'm going to take care of the whole deal for you. You just got to focus on the bank.
Okay.
Whereas an attorney that's not experienced in real estate doesn't know to say that to them.
Right.
So the buyer's calling me as the attorney every day. Not realize, no, call the bank, because we got to make sure the underwriter's doing their job.
Make sure you have your money. Make sure you have your money, which is the most important part of the deal. Right, exactly.
So there's just a lot of little things that a general practice attorney wouldn't have realized can be done 10 steps ahead without the experience.
Yeah.
I
feel like in my experience, when I deal with a general practitioner, this is what I do all day, every day. So usually it's not their top priority. That's one thing.
Yep.
So they'll call me at 8 o'clock, and I get offended. 8 o'clock emails. Hey, where's that? I'm like, yo, who knows where it is? I've sent this email back. Yo, 8 o'clock at night on a Friday. Who knows where that is?
Correct.
Hit me up at 9 o'clock on a Monday when you're supposed to be in the office. They're not making big money because they're not charging big money.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, who cares? And then of course, who suffers is the client. At the client, they're like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I was like, I don't know. I can't speak to the attorney. He's in landlord-tenant court, or he's in a deposition for a malpractice case, or like doing all types of crazy things. And these guys are usually one-man shows, and they don't have a support staff, and we have to work in tandem. Like, what people don't understand is that there's a process and a sequence of events that have to happen in a certain sequence, and if you don't have somebody on the other side catching the ball, then I'm stuck.
Correct. For example, when I speak to my buyers and we review contracts, I said, give me your lender contact. Why? Well, even though the lending part is your side, you have to deal with that. That's your job, your only job in this transaction. I want to know who your lender contact is, because the day that I receive your contract, I'm not only emailing it to you and telling you to send it to your bank.
I'm sending it to the bank.
I'm emailing it directly to the bank, and I'm CCing you, because truly they need it more than you need it.
Right.
An attorney that doesn't do this wouldn't know to do that.
That's true.
And it's like you said, I got to catch the ball when you're throwing it. I have to know.
Yeah.
Just like in football, right? You got to know your play before you're out there on the field.
Right.
I know the plays.
Right.
I'm out there.
People don't understand, going conventional. So with commercial, there's no trade. So I get a clear close Monday, I close Tuesday.
Yep.
Right. But on the residential side, there's the LE that has to be sent out and signed. Then the pre-CD. Then when you sign that and they get it back, then 3 days from that day is when you can actually close. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They're like, oh, I close tomorrow. I'm like, no, you close next week. Right. And then banks are backed up, right? So maybe they can't close you, right? Or maybe your attorney, like right now we have a deal that's running around because it's June, people go on vacation. Oh, I'm out this week. I'll see that. I was like, you're out. What, you haven't? Nobody else can close it? Well, no. I just I work by myself. I'm like,
right.
All right.
Right. So that's another thing that people don't realize. There's a lot of parties that have to facilitate their schedules to be able to get to that common day time for the closing.
For that closing transaction, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so a client that didn't understand that, their stress level is through the roof. What do you mean we can't close? What do you mean my attorney's holding it up?
He told me it's cleared. He told me it's clear.
Right. Just because it's clear doesn't mean that we're ready, especially if we're dealing with a co-op or a condo, because now there's another party that we need to involve.
The managing agent.
Yeah. And let's not forget that COVID has thrown in a monkey wrench, because some people don't want to be at the table. Yep. So sellers' attorneys are trying to get their clients to pre-sign documents rather than just showing up.
Yep.
So that complicates things more. What about the seller that just moved across the country and is not going to be there?
I've been seeing a lot of that. I've been seeing a lot of empty houses.
Yeah.
People, to me, it's good as a lender because I can say, we'll close tomorrow. You can move right in. But then going back to what you said, the complication of the seller. Oh, when can I get docs so I can pre-sign? It becomes a whole organization of people, and then title has to always be cool with it because they want to ensure your transaction. Then you can't do anything. Right.
So what I suggest to those attorneys that are dealing with that situation is get your documents pre-signed well in advance. So closing, you don't need a clear close for your seller to sign their
What are they
documents.
signing? Are they signing ACRA stocks?
Deed, transfer tax forms. It's ACRAS in the boroughs, but transfer tax forms elsewhere, they're the same thing. They just label it different.
Right.
Title affidavits.
Okay.
You need to have a seller CD
right.
and a smoke detector affidavit. The seller CD and the smoke detector affidavit are prepared by the bank's attorney, who the seller has no relationship with.
Right.
And the title affidavits are prepared by the title company, who the seller really has no relationship with.
Right.
And the deed and transfer tax forms are prepared by the seller's attorney.
So is it important to introduce all the players in the beginning of the game?
Yeah.
You like that? You like that sports analogy? Yeah, because like in the beginning of the game, we gotta have the coin toss and have everybody kind of like, yo,
Absolutely.
These are the 5 people that are involved. There's usually 5 to 7 people involved in the transaction,
Absolutely.
from inspectors to appraisers to attorneys to realtors to it's a lot of people.
A lot of people. Yeah. I think it's super important, and I think that again, one of the reasons I went into the brokerage and sales side, it's the agent. Bring the players together.
Right.
Bring the players together. A lot of times you're referring these people out for your clients. Make sure the players who know who they're working with, because when you have a team that works well together, you'll soar.
You get it done fast. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You get it done fast.
So the purchase memo is just step 1. That just includes buyer, seller, attorneys. After that, keep track of everybody in the deal. So when your client has a question, you know how to answer it. And when I have a question as an attorney, I know who I'm reaching out to.
Do you use a program to like keep all people involved? I know attorneys have like Leap, stuff like that.
No,
you don't use that?
No, I'm pretty old school. I literally have a spreadsheet.
That's old as fuck.
Yeah. I do because it allows me to manipulate it a lot.
Okay.
So I keep track of it like that, and I keep every single correspondence that I send in one folder per client.
Wow.
So when there's a question on a deal, I go right to that folder. I know exactly
where you're at,
what the last thing was that we did. All of my stuff is labeled very, 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 very specifically with the name, the date, what's on it, everything is super organized because it just allows me to get answers out quicker.
Well, because everything is based on precedent. So if people ask you, hey man, you said this, you'll be like, oh, no, I didn't. Take a look, this is what I said, right? Yeah, I get that,
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, we went over real estate, we went over title insurance, we went over the attorney, the mortgage people in the deal. Let's talk about, you started your own business, right? How old were you when you incorporated or the law firm? When did you start your law firm by your, like on your own?
On my own, I'd say maybe 5 years ago.
5 years ago, okay. So 2016,
Yeah.
right?
Just about.
What's the difference? See, the difference with us, well, just one glaring difference is that I've never worked for anyone else, right? I've always been on my own, always, I don't know why. So what's the major glaring difference you see from working for corporate America to working for yourself?
Corporate America, you are a tool in you're a little nut in a huge machine. That nut goes kaput or has a little off day, it's easily replaceable.
Okay.
Easily. I'll give you a very specific example of what the difference is.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Any job I've ever interviewed for since I became a mother, my first line is, I will bend over backwards for my employer. 100%. I'll work till 1, 2 in the morning if you need me to. But you gotta understand that I'm a mother first.
Right.
Right? And people said they understood.
Right.
But when it came down to the days when my daughter had 103 fever and I can't go to work, that's when they don't understand.
Was it glaringly obvious?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, granted, I've had employers tell me that it's fine. Madison used to come to work with me. Madison's my daughter.
Right.
She used to come to work with me. She literally had a cot under my desk where she would take her naps in the middle of the day. But when it came time that mommy duty calls, it was like, oh, but this deal's happening. The straw that broke the camel's back for me was when my grandfather passed away, and they had me working half the day on the day of his funeral.
They need you to work?
Yeah, we have a commercial deal. You need to work. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
So that was it for me. Self-employed, I decide when I'm working, how I'm working. I could work from anywhere in the world and be just as efficient as I am right here sitting in my office. Yeah. I make it happen, and the terms in which I make it happen, I define.
Okay.
So that is a huge difference for me. Huge.
Yeah, I think in 2017 I had a life event also, and with my mom, and it wasn't with an employer, but it was also the dynamic of relationship between clients and customers became very evident to me. Like I would tell certain people, listen, man, I would tell people straight up, listen, I don't know if I'm a good fit right now. I was like, I only have, I don't know when I'm available. I don't know anything. I just know that, yes, I can work on this. Yes, I can help you. Right now, family's first. And my biggest transactions, like all the big multi-million-dollar transactions, they were the first ones to be like, yo, family first, we're here. Yeah. Whenever you need it, look, just text me. I want you to do it, but I'll work around you. The small ones, they were the first ones like who kind of try to commoditize me. They were like, oh, if you can't give me this in 2 days, and I was like, listen, I'm just not the guy for you. But that to me was a really big genesis in my attitude towards the distinction between a client, like a real person who treats you, who sees you, like that's a metaphor that I use a lot, sees you as a real person, not just, yo, man, you got to get me this thing done. And I'm like, yo, man, I don't, at certain points, I didn't care. Like I told them, I was like, yo, I don't give a fuck about that right now. Like right now, my mom's in the ER, and then they're like, well, then I can't work with you. I was like, no, I can't work with you. And so yeah, I went through my own thing in 2017 where I was able to distinguish and identify people that saw me more as a person than just as a cog in the machine, as you said. And as a self-employed person, like the client is always first, right? But you're a person too. So I think that gets lost in the message sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to that point, I have fired myself from deals.
No, you fire the client. But,
yeah.
Yeah, but like, yo, I can't work with you. What? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yo, you're not approved here anymore.
I definitely.
Then you gotta prove somewhere else.
I hear that
You're not approved anymore. What do you mean? I'm like, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I can't work with you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because like you said, there's just some people. I tell everybody, you gotta feel comfortable with your team. But just like you gotta feel comfortable with your team, I gotta feel comfortable with you too.
Yeah.
And with the team that you're putting together.
Yeah.
This is my livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's just some people that are not a good mix for each other, and there's a mutual respect that has to be there. And if it's not there,
and sometimes it takes something so drastic in life that it makes things very clear for a second. It gives you a moment of lucidity, right? Like you're like, hell no, like that's just not the way I'm rolling. And then when you said that about corporate America, that's what I felt about client America. Is that
it makes sense.
Yeah, client America. I was like, no, man, I can't do that. So that was a big awakening for me. All right, so then corporate America commoditized you. So you said, I'm gonna do my own thing. And the real estate is because you missed a transaction with the people, right?
Yep.
So you've been married how long?
2 years.
2 years married, and how long you been with your husband?
We've been together for 6-ish.
6 years, okay. And you met him in the Bronx?
I did. I met him at Rodriguez and Fuentes.
At 644 Soundview.
Yes,
is
I
where
did.
all the relationships happen.
That's a pretty funny story too.
Is it? Do you want to go into that?
Yeah.
All right.
So I was working at the firm that we shared space in.
Shout out to Jose.
That's the godfather.
It'll always be shout out to Jose. Yeah.
And minding my business, I was covering for the secretary in the front. Usually I was in the back in my office, but I was covering for the secretary. So I was sitting in front, and there's a buzzer in that office, like many offices in the city. So I see there's like 4 or 5 firemen at the door. I'm like, did I miss the shoot?
Is
the
there smoke
shoot?
out here?
Hold on a second. So I buzzed them and I'm like, how can I help you guys? And they had a question about the building next door, right? So when they came in, I was in the middle of typing up a letter for some client. And this psychotic fireman comes around into the secretary area and starts typing me this love letter on the computer. And I'm like, this dude is crazy, out of his mind. Before he left, then they left.
Okay.
They left. We chatted a little bit, laughed a little bit, and they left. Maybe the next week, maybe like 3 guys come now instead of 5 or 6. And, just coming by to say hi. And I'm like, they called me from my office, Jessica, you have a visitor here. Okay, so I come out, I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Just coming by to say hi. I'm gonna take one of your cards in case I ever need your services. I'm like, yeah, feel free.
Right. I
get back to my office, I have a phone call. Jessica, you have a call on line 1. Hello, it's Jessica, how can I help you? You can let me take you out to lunch. Who's this? And it was the fireman that just left, my husband now. I said no to him about 400 times.
Wow, persistence overcomes resistance.
I was in the midst, listen, I had a daughter. I knew I was heading into law school.
You were going to law school, that's where you were, right?
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't have time for this. I need to get through law school. I have a baby, law school is the biggest endeavor I ever went into while working.
Right.
So it's crazy. I knew it was going to be very challenging. So I said I needed to focus. What convinced me was I lived 2 blocks away from the firm. I don't know if you knew that, but I grew up on Bolton Avenue in Soundview.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Right there. So I lived 2 blocks away. That's his district. So he's in it.
He's around there in his little engine and his car, the fire truck.
Yeah. So whenever he would pass the office, he would honk the horn. Then he found out where I lived. So whenever he passed my house, he would honk the horn.
Right.
So one day my grandfather was like, "Ay, nena, please just go out with the guy." How was that?
I'm tired of him.
Whatever my grandfather, Noel Antonio, is named after him. Whatever my grandfather said was gospel to me. I'm like, all right, well, he told me to date him, so I might as well.
I might as well hang out with him.
And literally it's been ever since.
And now he's working with you?
Now he helps, yes.
And how's that helped the work-life dynamic?
It's definitely helped in that he understands the hustle differently now. He always respected the hustle, but now he understands it very different because he's a part of it. And I was telling you off camera, but I'm gonna just share with the camera. He always called me, oh my God, you're so OCD. Everything gotta be done a certain way. And now he sees why.
Right.
You know, so
I think it's important people to understand that when people are working off of other people's work, it becomes super important. If you're working by yourself all the time, then you know you're chaos, you're mess. You're like, fuck it, I'll find it. But if you're trying to tell, hey, I need, I don't know, your assistant's name. Hey, Jesse, I need you to look up file index, whatever, and look under, correspondence. Like, that's when it becomes super important. Now with COVID and everybody working remote, that's when it becomes very evident of how important that was, right? Because personally have people that work in Colorado. Most of my team works in Long Island. I'm the only one in the Bronx. Yeah. So everybody's working remotely. And I'm not super organized, but my team is, and they're helping me with that part.
They keep you
right. I know how to structure the deal really well, like where you won't see it. I can figure out how the matrix will work, but the rest of it, that's them.
You have to be. So my husband is kind of like that. Like he understands his chaos.
Right.
And for me, I need to be able to pick up the file. And a lot of these little attributes came from corporate America. I will give it that benefit.
So it was training.
Yeah, like you have to be able to pick up a file where somebody left off and just run with it, not having to ask questions.
Right.
So anybody should be able to go into my email, sit down, and with my files on one side, my emails on the other, and pick up right where I left off.
And take a read and be able to understand where you're at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I can't do that and you're working on my files, there's a problem.
Okay.
So, but now he gets it.
Okay.
Now he gets it. Because it just eliminates the phone calls.
Is he more organized now?
A little bit when it comes to what he's doing with work.
Right,
yes.
right. Whatever he's doing at work. Okay.
Not getting his laundry into the laundry basket, but that's
you gotta leave personal, man. Personal, business. Yeah.
But yeah, it works out well.
What do you see right now in the market with people buying and selling? I'll give you my vision. My vision right now, it's a super seller's market, right? But the problem becomes now when they sell, where are they gonna buy? They're like, what? That's $2 million? I'm like, yeah, it's $2 million. Like, that's what I'm starting to see. They're not understanding that they're well on the seller side, but now they're on the buyer side, and now they can't priced out of the market. Interest rates are super low right now, so people can qualify for a lot more than they could have, right? And I believe interest rates will stay low
for a little while.
I can't even tell you when it's gonna go up because I don't think any president wants to be the president that tanked the economy. Right, exactly. So inflation's up. Stocks are going up. So what people don't understand with the manipulation of the economy is that, inflation goes up because interest rates are low. So grab something. But what's happening is that I'm starting to see that they're starting to not just the house, they're just trying to start to live above their means because now I don't know if you noticed they're giving cars away at 0% interest rate. So now you got the car, you got this, you got the jet ski. I got clients that buy boats in the middle of a transaction. I'm like, what the fuck you doing? He's like, I bought a boat. And it all adds up. And when the economy turns a little bit, that's when you're gonna see a big, I think, well, not in New York because we have the best foreclosure rules for the client. So I don't think anybody's gonna be, out the house, but there's gonna be a turn. So what do you see happening with the people that are selling? Where are they going? I see a lot of Florida. That's what I see a lot. There's
a lot of Florida. There's actually a lot of Texas. Too.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I haven't been involved with that, but I've heard of it.
There's a lot of Texas, a lot of Florida. Well, first of all, taking a step back even as to what's going to happen with them, I think that it's important for their realtors and their team to be honest with them, because we get that I'm anxious to sell without them realizing the mess that they're going to be in and trying to purchase.
Right.
No matter where they are. Right now, COVID has allowed people to work remotely from anywhere. A lot of companies are changing their structure. So you got people that are selling here in New York and buying in Florida all cash because of the price difference and all this stuff.
Right.
So it's opening up competition in areas where before it didn't exist.
Right.
And your seller really needs to be prepared for them to be now on the opposite side of the fence. But I definitely see a lot of people. Oh, PA is another one.
Pennsylvania, okay.
Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas. I actually see it. I live up in Putnam, and the competition up there is crazy.
What price point?
I want to say the greatest competition is probably in the 400, 500, 600 range because most people
350 to 650 is that number where it's a dogfight. It's a dogfight.
It is because a lot of people before didn't think they can afford it, like you said, but now the interest rates have changed. Now jobs are allowing them to work from home.
And now space has become super important.
Super important. Everybody was trapped up in apartments.
Yeah.
And they don't want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
And even just ending up in the hospitals where 1,000 other people on the same floor as you, people got scared. People got scared. So now the suburban life is appealing to a lot of people. So the competition is through the roof. And now imagine somebody that inherited a house from grandma, a brownstone, right? From grandma in Brooklyn.
We don't gotta imagine. That's happening all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I inherited a house from grandma, a brownstone in Brooklyn, and now I want to buy a beautiful house.
I didn't pay shit for it.
Right.
And it's worth $3 million.
No mortgage.
Yeah.
Now I want to buy a house up in Putnam. You just banged out all of the competition because you're gonna sell that and buy mine all cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tough.
But I think there's also there's fiduciary responsibility. I'll give you an example. Right. I have a client that purchased a property in New Rochelle. The way I met him, he had a TOE letter thrown on him. His other lender backed out of it. So I got him his loan. He closed. The day he closed, he made $700,000 in equity, right? So he was fucking excited.
Yeah.
So then he calls me
would
up.
be too.
He goes, yo, we did it. I'm like, we did it. So then he gets a call. I think the whole relationship with the condo and the board and the developer, the way it went, kind of like soured him. So even though the place is dope, he's just not feeling it. So he's looking now. So he got solicited by somebody he knows. I'm building this house. I'll sell it to you for 2 point whatever. So he's like, now I'm his guy. So he's like, oh, Luis, ven conmigo. So we went over there, we checked it out. And I did a walk, it's in Palo Manor, it's fucking dope. So I was like, well, what's the price? He's like this. I was like, yeah, I can definitely get you a loan. Because I know him, because I've done his loan, I kind of know what his financial package is.
You have that picture already.
So he goes, I go, what are the taxes? He goes, 80,000. I said, no. I was like, absolutely not. He goes, what do you mean? I was like, you have to make $7,000 a month, just the taxes and insurance. I just did it quick in my head. For the rest of your life, low ball.
Yep.
I told him, for the rest of your life. I just did that. For the rest, taxes only go up and they're forever.
Yep.
I was like, no, bro. I was like, I know you're doing well now, but when you're 60,
gonna be doing well when
right?
You're 60?
I was like, how are you gonna be doing that, man? And he was like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I kind of fucked up that deal. Sorry, but I had a fiduciary responsibility to my client. I don't know the seller.
Correct.
I wasn't, that wasn't my guy. My guy was the buyer, and I told him, look, man, I know we can make it happen. The issue is just because you can, should you?
Right.
And I explained it to him, and then when I broke it down, he understood. He was like, you're right. I was like, yo, in about 5 years, you're at $250,000 in taxes that you're just paying just to have.
Okay, so since we've touched on it, I want you now to dive into a little bit about taxes and how that impacts a client's monthly obligation, because a lot of people tell me my pre-approval is for $650.
$10 million.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, what are your taxes? Oh, I don't know.
Oh, how about this one?
Difference.
I qualify for $1 million in the Bronx, but in Putnam, I can only buy $450.
Correct.
Right.
Why?
So the issue with tax, it is all based on municipality, and what municipality basically is, your water, sewer, parks, what it takes to take care of the area you're in. And since there's such a high concentration of people in the city, the taxes per unit are very low, because you have 1 square mile has 100 people, whereas in Putnam, 1 square mile will have 1 person. So you think about the 100 people that have to pay $5,000 in taxes, and the 1 person has to pay $50,000 in taxes. I'm just doing an oversimplification. So you divide that by 12 months, and out of your buying power, I'm going to simplify it. Let's say you make $10,000 a year. It's $120,000 a year, $10,000 a month. If your taxes are $5,000 a month, then your mortgage payment can only be $7,000, because you could only be 57% of your gross income. You can't afford shit.
Nope.
So that your pre-approval is subject to your area. And that's what most people don't understand. And even me, look, I do most of my stuff in the 5 boroughs. I'm dabbling in Westchester now. Putnam's I know that New Rochelle has certain laws about COs, and you only get the CO when you're gonna sell the product, some weird stuff. So every town has a nuance, right? So it behooves you to work with a specialist of that area. And I've told certain clients that I want you to do it. I'm like, but I'm not from that area.
I'm not best suited.
Yeah, I can refer you to somebody. I just that's not my area. This is my area. And the problem also becomes you have the agents that want every deal, which is okay, but it takes more work. It takes more work. It takes an hour to get there. Know your municipalities. You got to know the answers. How are you going to talk to a client about a neighborhood you've never been in?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's important for the clients to understand how all of that really does impact a lifelong commitment that they're about to make.
Yeah, taxes are forever.
Taxes are
I say it forever. I say that forever. There's nothing. You're sick, still there. You're doing well. That's great. It's there. You're doing bad. It's great. It's still there. So that's the part where people, especially when you're vertically climbing, I call there's a generation of vertical climbers that are they're trying to do better. But once you get to the next landing, before you go to the next staircase, you got to take a look around you and take a look at what the rules of engagement are. And most people, the same rules don't apply, right? The way the same rules don't apply per tax bracket, right? You make less than 100, you get a break. After 250, 300, there's no breaks. Now all of a sudden, you got to get creative.
Basically, you've proven yourself great. Now keep it up.
Right. Now you got to pay the taxes. Now you got to pay taxes forever. So I think that's what I'm starting to see in Brooklyn. Brooklyn's now become like Manhattan. So, the numbers are bananas. The numbers are bananas. And for some reason, I have a lot of clients in Brooklyn. And What's crazy is that you have these high-end luxury apartments. I'll use one that I closed on, the Houston. It's a city block, right? The penthouses, a lot of the NBA, the Nets players live there. $3 million. Across the street on one side of it is the U.S. housing projects. And they're like, yo, there's gunshots here. I'm like, yeah, it's in Brooklyn. Like,
welcome.
It doesn't understand.
Welcome
they don't
home.
understand that. Yeah, they don't understand that. It doesn't matter. Yeah. That's the part where, like, you got to be real. Be like, look, you're across the street from the projects.
It's our job to be real
Right.
with them. It is.
Right.
And if you're an agent that doesn't know the area, you're not gonna.
What is the craziest question you ever had from a client?
That's tough.
Yeah.
The craziest question.
Yeah, about a property. Like, if you had to fiduciarily be like one guy. So I had a client. I sold a house, and then we bought another house, and then my client didn't clear his oil tank removal, and he was like, "I want you to sell the house." I was like, "I can't." I was like, "Because I have to tell him, because I know about it, bro." I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you."
Yep.
He's like, "Oh, yo," I was like, "I like you, I just can't help you. I'm sorry, because I can't put my head on the chopping block for you." And he was mad at me, but later on he understood. I was like, "And whoever you use, tell him not to call me, because I'm gonna tell him."
Right.
So that was one of the craziest ones. He got upset at me, but he's all right now.
I don't know that I've had a crazy one like that. I mean, people have been pretty honest. I also, because of my title background, I like to look into the property myself.
Oh, so you do that? Okay.
So I want to make sure that if there are issues, that we're taking the time to clear them, to work on them before we get in contract, and it blows up in our face, because now all it's going to do is delay the process. Then we get slammed with a TOE, and the buyer's deposit is in jeopardy.
Right.
So I like to look up my properties before we even get into contract. If I'm representing the seller, before we even list. So I try to get ahead of those issues. I don't know that I've had a client try to be slick or get by.
No?
Yet? No,
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I have had buyers in the loan process say, well, I'm getting my money. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. That's for the buyer to evaluate. I mean, the lender to evaluate.
Right.
Please speak to your lender.
Right. Let him be creative with it.
You have to be open and honest. And I tell them that from the beginning. Be open and honest, even before your pre-approval, with your lender, because now you guys can figure out a game plan. Maybe this month isn't the right month for us to shop because you have something in your credit report that's about to expire. Let's wait till next month.
Well, here's a nugget for you, since you said that. The banks look at your whole life in a very small window, right?
Correct.
So if you're really good for like 4 months, you get away with it. You know, like if you're like clean for 4 months, you could do it, guys. You could do it. That's free. That's free. Just letting you know, like, yeah, speak to a professional, get yourself prepared, clean yourself up. Because the banks only look back 60 to 90 days. So if you get your FICO score up and you get everything else lines up, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to talk about seasoning of money, things like that. All right, I have another question for you now.
Yeah.
Why do you think you did the title insurance, you did attorney, now you're doing a real estate company? So people ask me all the time, so HRN is vertically stacked, right? We're almost fully integrated vertically stacked. So I have private money lending, commercial lending, real estate brokerage, and I'm getting the residential mortgage license. So I'm gonna be fully stacked so that we'll be fully self-sufficient. We don't need anybody else. What pushes you every day to get up and keep pushing Noel Antonio?
A couple of things. I mean, listen, I look at my daughter and I want to free up my time for her.
Okay.
So that's always top priority. But also I feel like I have an obligation to my grandfather, which is why I named the business after him. He came to New York from Puerto Rico, not knowing how to read and write in English or Spanish.
Right.
Worked in a factory, still was able to acquire 3 houses, land in Florida, land in Puerto Rico. He still did his thing for his family and paved the way, right? So I feel like I had him by me at my law school graduation dinner, and I thanked him personally, overthinking anybody else. I thanked him, and I told him now the initials are at the end of his last name. So I feel like I owe it to that generation that paved the way for me, but really the more immediate why is my daughter, 100%. I want to be out of my shackles in terms of being strapped to work, and I want to build myself to a point that then my money starts to work for me.
Okay.
So the goal really is to grow a team and help my team. And in turn,
coach the team.
Coach the team.
Yeah, coach the team. Yeah,
coach the team.
I think that's just a general graduation of evolution of you be like I use this analogy all the time. Right now I'm still a player. It's really tough for me to coach. I'm working on it. I have my team. I know they're like, oh, you gotta tell. I'm like, I know, it's tough. It's tough.
It is hard.
So that's the part I'm working on right now. I still see myself as a starter. Eventually, I'm gonna have to become a coach and be like, yo, these guys got it. But it's tough. It's tough.
So
it's
tough.
tough. Yeah. How do you let go of that? Because I'm still working on it.
I'm still working on it too.
Cool,
so when you find out,
yeah, I'll text you because it's hard. It's hard because what especially the younger generation, they don't understand that a lot of the things that you can get done that other people might not be able to get done is based upon the relationships you've made over the years in transactions. Maybe you know a title underwriter that you need to omit on. I'm just using it as an example. Or maybe I know an underwriter that says, hey man, look, we don't really need this step. Right, where one person might be like, oh, we need that step, and another person, it's very subjective. So it's based on the relationships you make from the beginning and that carry you. And after seeing 1 million deals a day, you're able to just put them together really fast compared to I had a guy hit me up the other day. He texted me, he's like, yo, how do I become a better loan officer? I said, take Fannie Mae underwriting classes. I said, that's what you should do. He's like, why? I was like, because those are the rules. You know the rules, you play the game.
Exactly.
Right, but nobody tells them that. They're like, oh, I work at Citibank. They don't. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. You should, but do that on your own so that you can become more valuable.
Right.
Another thing that people always ask me, like, how do I vertically climb? I'm like, you want to become so valuable wherever you are that your employer is like, yo, chill. I don't want her to leave. What can I offer her? Because she's so good at that. She's too good for that. Let me try to give her this or something like that. That's how I've done it. Like wherever I worked at a place and before I worked on my own, I was like, yo, I wanna know everything because I wanna be irreplaceable. And that becomes the secret.
I think that's a major key when it comes to being an entrepreneur and working on your own. You have to know everything.
Right.
So you have to be willing to get your hands dirty to keep the wheels turning. Because if everybody walked out of my office tomorrow, I'm still good. I got this.
You still make it happen. Yeah,
I'm still making it happen.
But that leads to the empowerment, right? Like people don't understand. Like they're like, oh, that's beneath me. I said, yo, if that's beneath you, then up there is beyond you. I told him like, so if you can't get dirty, you're definitely not gonna fly. And but that's what I feel is happening, especially with the 20-year-old generation.
Right.
Except you guys.
Well, you said I'm 27. So,
yeah. Well, you're an exemption to the rule, but that's what I
27.
feel like. I had a conversation with one guy, and he was like, "Yo, I just feel like I don't have to prove myself to anybody." I was like, "But what have you done?"
Right.
I was like, it's based on precedent. Like I can't. It's like you saying I want to be a neurosurgeon, and you never went to class. I was like, that's stupid, right? He was like, yeah. I was like, you can't. Same concept.
You got to check your ego at the door.
Right.
Because there's no room for you to grow. And in fact, I literally just posted this morning on my story about this. I myself am telling my followers, give me feedback. Not only suggestions and questions that you want me to answer, but give me feedback, critique me. Tell me what I'm doing wrong in my videos. Do you guys not understand the content that I'm presenting to you? Because if you don't, then I'm doing something wrong and I need to figure out how to fix that.
Right.
I can't serve my clientele, my demographic, I can't give to you unless I'm doing it the right way. Right? So I gotta humble myself.
Yeah.
You gotta humble yourself too. Everybody gotta humble themselves. And people at the top have had a lot of years of humbling themselves and a lot of people knocking them down and telling them you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Fix it. Figure it out. So this younger generation you have to learn, put in your time, put in the work, get dirty, get your hands dirty, check your ego at the door. You have to.
I had a conversation with one of my sons, and he was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I said, look, use internships or jobs as maybe, instead of looking at it as, oh, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, look at it as, hey man, maybe this is not what I don't want to do, right? So, but you gotta explore that option. Like process of elimination, I told him. So you go there, you see if you like it, and if you like it, then you double down, you go harder on it. If you don't, then you can always pivot. I said, you're young enough that you don't have any bills, you can do that.
Yep.
But so many people are stuck on, I wanna be the millionaire or whatever they see on social media. And I'm like, yo, it all starts somewhere, right? We all start where we are. But you can't look at somebody else's story and judge yourself because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know how they got there. People hit me all the time, but I've been doing this for 16 years, 16 hours a day, nonstop, 365 days a year, for 16 years. So if I were to stop and just hang out in Aruba or Puerto Rico, you would have to hit me for 16 years. And I have to come back and be like, all right, maybe we're in the same place. But they don't understand. They think that there's a special secret that everybody does. There's no secret. There's no success without hard work.
You know that when you met me, well, not when you met me, but when I first started with Jose Rodriguez, I literally just walked into his office and I said, give me a shot. All I want to do is shadow you. Don't pay me. I worked for him for, I don't remember if it was 5 or 6 months, but for months, unpaid, not a single penny.
I didn't know that.
And I just wanted to learn because this was before I even started law school. So before I take the leap of faith and invest in law school, even then I understood, I need to know that I love it.
Right.
So I did that, and I dabbled in the general practice areas, and I found a niche that I liked, and I enjoyed it, and he threw me into it. And then when I was like, okay, I have to take on a couple more classes, he said, I want you to work for me. He put me on the books, and I started working for him. What was I doing to supplement those 5-6 months? Working 2 other jobs. I was cleaning houses, taking care of kids, and I was a counselor also on weekends.
4 jobs?
So 4 jobs, basically. Rodriguez, 5. I was a student full-time, Rodriguez, counselor, babysitting, and house cleaning.
Damn. Okay.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do. So that doesn't stop. That never stops. That mentality kept going in every stage of growth. And I'm able to bring that to the table and bring it to every deal that I work on.
Yeah, and every level you get to, the surprising fun fact is, and I'm learning this as I go too, right? You get to your next level that you think is the pinnacle, and then you get to that landing. I use this metaphor a lot. You get to the landing, you'll see a left, and there's another staircase. And then you're like, fuck, I want to go there. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one part, and you gotta love it. You gotta love the process, because if you don't love it, you're just gonna be miserable all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a saying that I use all the time, you don't know what you don't know. And there've been so many times in my life where I'm like, oh, I think this is fact, and then you look to your right, and then your consciousness grows, and you're like, oh shit, that's not the fact. This is the fact. And then you keep going and keep going. But people have to understand that it's a forever game.
It is. Every level has a new devil.
Right.
It is.
Every level has a new devil. Okay.
Listen, and you gotta overcome it.
Right.
You have to. And I find it fun. I find obstacles.
Well, you have to have that attitude.
You have to, otherwise it
or you'd be
eats you
miserable.
up.
You'd be miserable. Right. Like, you gotta use your competitive spirit, but also be so self-aware that don't let it like destroy you. Right. Like, you can use it to motivate you, but there's that fine line of where you let it like erode your spirit, and that's what some people,
integrity.
Yeah, and people start feeling, right, well, that's when they try to cut corners. That's a whole nother conversation. But that part, you have to be self-aware, and people, they're like, oh, I could do that. I'm like, all right, well, wake up this week, let's do it, 4 o'clock, let's go. Oh, Tuesday, I got a headache.
That's crazy.
I can't come to work.
Right.
I was like, oh, you can't come to work, you had a headache. All right, it's day 2, bro. All right.
Right.
So, all right, I don't think this is for you, bro. Just, it's okay, but be self-aware. Don't say, yo, I can do the 16 hours a day. I told a lot of people that like, every year is a different year, but 16 years, yo, I'm sick. Yo, your mother's sick. Yo, it doesn't matter. You have to get up. You have to get up and get it done. And that, once you do that, progressively, give yourself a year of doing that straight. And then maybe you've become the person you need to be to go the full marathon, because it's a marathon. And if you can't wake up because you have a headache, if you can't wake up because your girl's mad at you, if you can't wake up because you were hanging out last night, then you don't want it bad. It's really that simple. You don't want it bad enough. If you want it bad enough, everything else fades away and you can focus in, and it's not like you're punishing yourself, you're investing in yourself. And that's where I think people use the wrong words. They're like, I want to lose weight. Oh, I was like, all right, stop eating cake. It's really simple. And then, oh, fuck you. I'm like, yo, I'm just being honest. We're at the party, you're eating this cake, you tell me I want to lose weight. I'm like, put it down, bro. He's like, but it's that simple, and you have to be aware. You have to be aware of that, and you have to be your harshest critic, but your biggest cheerleader, right? It's like a very contra thing, and I'm like, look, if you want to lose weight, do that. If you want to be successful, then you got to figure out what your true why is. Like I tell my kids, you got to find out what you really love, right? And then it won't be like work, and you won't be destroyed when it doesn't go your way. You'll just get reinvigorated and be like, how do I make it go my way? And that becomes the game changer. That's how you turn the corner. And it starts with your mindset, but the true art is the execution. That's what people are like, Omar, I think positive every day. I was like, what'd you do today? He goes, I stood in my bed.
Just do it, even if you're doing it wrong.
No, you heard me? He's like, I stood in bed. I was like, nigga, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, right.
You thought about it. What did you do?
Right.
Oh, nothing. I was just in bed. I was like, then nothing's going to happen. I know the secret. Look, the secret, I believe in the secret, positive thinking, but there's definitive execution behind it, which people are starting to lose. They're like, oh, I just thought about it all day. It's supposed to come to me.
You have those people that are just trying to learn. Paralysis by analysis. If all you're doing is reading all day, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
Get out there and do it, even if you're doing it wrong. Just do it, because you gain more from the experience.
Practice beats theory every time. I say that all the time.
Law school didn't teach me what I'm doing.
Right.
Law school did not teach me what I'm doing. What taught me
it just
what
gave
I'm
you a
doing
certificate to do it.
Exactly.
It allowed you to do it. Right.
I was doing it before I had the certificate.
Right.
Before I had the license. I was doing it for Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And that taught me more than law school. Law school taught me how to research, but how to apply and execute and get it done and analyze and figure out a solution to all the obstacles that a deal can throw your way. That was all experience.
Well, what do you think helped you in terms of communicating with clients? I think that having a large family, like I have like 50 cousins, I think that helped me because oh, you can touch on that now. Okay, hold on. So I think that's what helped me because you have the OGs from Puerto Rico that don't, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the first generation, which is like my mom, her crew that came over and they brought that over. But then you got the kids that came from Puerto Rico and came over and they can't talk to the kids that were born and raised here, and it became a thing. And I became that cousin.
Right, the intermediary.
Jamel, because he'll figure this out. I'm like, yo, what are you guys doing? So that I think helped me able to speak to the OGs, to everyone, and that goes to now to my clients that are, Columbia professors, to deli owners. Like I can speak every vernacular. And I think it's really important.
So I think that our upbringings are similar in that it allowed us to become chameleons, right? So we can kind of mix in different circles. And
you gotta speak in a dialect they understand.
100%.
Yeah.
Also, one of my aunts she has a doctorate and she studied the mind, basically. Latinos, notice we talk with our hands and we've probably covered about 25 different topics in I don't know how long we've been talking, but that's how we function, right? So we bounce around and we talk with our hands and we're very animated and we can think like this.
Right.
Some people think very linear.
Linear, right.
So the fact that we can think like this and be covering 100 different topics at the same time allows us to really be efficient in the workplace.
Okay.
Because
multitasking to the temp degree.
Multitasking, but in an efficient way. Because some people multitask and they just butcher everything that they're working on.
They're not doing anything well, right.
You got to really zero in on the things that you should be multitasking on. But my point is, it allows me to keep up with the workload. It allows me to keep a flow in my office. It allows me to respond to people via text message, and you were doing the same thing. We were carrying on a conversation before the cameras were rolling, and you were responding to emails, and so was I.
Yeah.
And servicing our clients while maintaining our networking and our relationship. And I think that's huge for us, for Latinos. I think it just allows us.
Did she do like a study on that? Or?
Literally, her doctorate was about, so she focused on English as a second language for children.
Okay. And
they're placed in different classes because some school districts wrongfully label them as delayed developmentally. However, they're geniuses in their language.
Yeah.
You just can't teach a fish how to climb a tree.
Yeah, ESL was definitely a stigma when I was growing up. I came up in public school. Like if you're in an ESL class, you're like less than a citizen, right? And that you don't understand the kind of effect that has on the
kid. It's a language barrier.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And they had to sit in their own table, and you know what I'm saying? Like it ostracized them.
So my aunt now she's hired by districts to teach them how to recreate the curriculum so that they're properly educated.
And integrate them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So her and I were having this conversation and she said, well, this is how our minds work. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. No wonder.
You're so smart.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I think it's helped. And I also think that my experience in the commercial world has, like I said before, forced me to have to maintain my files properly, organization and communication, like you said.
Big numbers.
Big numbers.
Yeah,
big numbers come with big expectations.
Yeah, and big mistakes.
Yeah.
Big mistake. And nobody wants to be liable for a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So communicating with the client really stemmed from I'm communicating, I'm letting you know every step of the way what's happening, and I'm keeping it all organized. So, that's just how I get it done.
All right.
How about you? How do you communicate with your clients?
It depends on the client. Every client has, I really believe everything is very nuanced and very personal. So some clients I can be very rough with, and they're cool with it because they're business owners too. I'm like, look, I can't talk right now. Text you in 10.
Those are the ones that understand.
Yeah, because they're in their own hustle, right? And I love the clients that show you like a little respect. Like, can I text you now, or can I call you now? Like, I love that. And then there's the other clients that call you 80 times to tell you that their coffee was no good. And those are the clients who are like, yo, my man, I'm a little busy with that. So it just becomes, I believe, in the beginning, the initial interview, you kind of feel the flavor, get the vibe, and then you kind of know how to deal with them. And then some clients may like to speak to my team more than me because sometimes I'm like a little rough on them.
Right.
But I just got to figure that out. And I try to be like, the iron fist and the silk glove. Like, look, guy, you can't do that. Why do they have to see my bank statement? I don't know. Are you a terrorist? oh, why do you say that? I'm like, well, because it's anti-money laundering. Like that's, I just gotta kind of say it in terms that they'll understand. Well, they'll sit there and be like, all right, it's not an invasive question. There's a rule about this. It's not just me, because everybody thinks it's just them. Oh, they don't like my last name. I'm like, they don't know you, bro.
Right.
I just need 60 days of bank statements. That's all I need. Don't make it a big deal. But per client, Latinos, the one thing I love about, they're loyal to a fault though. Yeah. Even if they hate you, they will not leave you.
No, yeah.
That's the one thing I learned. Like I have clients, they will stalk me, WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever it is. You haven't called me back. I'm like, yo, on 18 different platforms, she's trying to, you know.
Yeah.
And you gotta call them back.
I'm done with that too.
Yeah.
So what I do when I get a new client, I obviously thank my referral source, and then I call the client just to introduce myself. And I warn them from the very beginning. Sometimes you're gonna get a nice conversation out of me, and we're gonna chit chat about everything, about your summer, about everything.
We're gonna have time.
Other times, you're gonna get one-word answers. I'm getting the job done, but I'm gonna get it done like that. I don't have time for pleasantries, and that's to benefit you, because I'm trying to move your deal along as fast as I can. But while I'm doing that for you, I'm doing that for my other clients as well.
Right.
So I tell them, don't take offense. If you text me late and I respond quick, be thankful that I responded.
You're lucky. Yeah.
Right. So just don't take offense, because sometimes I can be very cut and dry. And they're, oh, thank you so much for giving me the heads up. I appreciate. No, I understand. And at least they can say that I warned them.
Okay.
And I tell them, after certain hours, the best form of communication for me is an email, because I can type faster than I can text, and I can type an email faster than I'll get back to your phone call.
Do you keep your laptop by the bed?
I don't.
Oh, good. Good job.
No,
good
I
job.
do not. Thank you.
Shout out to your husband. Yeah.
I don't. But I still check my emails from my phone.
No.
I know.
No, I have a bad habit of doing it in the morning when I wake up, because some people work in California, automated systems.
Right, and
I shouldn't
they're
do
up
that.
working later than you are.
I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that, because like today, I got a fine from HCAR for a listing thing. I was like, that puts you in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Like, and you don't want to wake up to that shit.
I have a tendency to work later, because in the mornings I'm focused on my daughter, because she's still little.
Okay.
So she needs me to get up, do her hair, and make her breakfast, and her lunch, I pack it for her, and all that stuff. So when I'm with her, it is mommy Maddie.
It's off, right.
With her in the mornings and dinner time. I also warn my clients of that too. I will respond to you and I will call you. Sometimes you'll see emails from me at crazy hours. However, if I'm having dinner with my family, I'm not even acknowledging you.
Okay.
That is dinner with my family. We're sitting down, there's no phones at the table.
That's great.
And they respect it.
Yeah.
You just gotta let them know from the outset, and they respect it. Yeah.
I'll try that.
So give them an old warning, little disclaimer.
Yeah, I know. So it's just like, like growing a team, it takes just as much energy as it does to run a business. And that's the part where like it kind of grinds your gears a little bit, and it kind of contra to executing. Like if you used to, like you're a practitioner, right? Just like me. So we're used to, all right, we gotta get this done, let's get it done. It gets done, and then now we want to try to tackle this many deals instead of this many deals, and we have to disseminate it and actually categorize it. And in the beginning, you think about it, it's a bigger catcher, right? You want to catch that much more volume, but you have to put all these pieces in place, and it becomes a patience game.
It's tough when you're growing like that, and you're trying to get so many more deals to give everybody the same attention.
Yeah.
And attention to detail. Right?
Do you have a cap or no? I have a cap. 30 deals, that's it.
Not really.
30 deals.
It's just me. So I don't think that I've reached the point where I have to cut people off. I cut people off on terms, not necessarily because of numbers. Okay. Like if we're just not working out.
Right.
I cut you off.
This is not good for us.
I'm not hungry. I'm good. I'm all right.
It's not you, it's me. There you go. I got you.
Exactly,
Yeah, okay.
I will say that now with the help, now that I am growing a team, I'm able to take on more without it feeling like it's taking over my life. And that's a step in the right direction for me.
So in the beginning, you felt like it was like overwhelming?
Absolutely. Not necessarily. See, I never felt overwhelmed.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
You
like it, but if you're being snippy with your husband, no, shout out, then you're overwhelmed. And I'm speaking from experience. Like, my wife was like, why are you saying it like that? I'm like, oh, my bad. And I understood. I was like, all right, this is misdirected, and let me correct that. Yeah.
So I never felt overwhelmed, because I have a passion for what I do, and I enjoy what I do, and I like getting the deals done.
I can't tell by your tone right now, but go ahead.
But I was overwhelmed because, like you said, I was taking things out of my family, or I just wasn't present.
Right.
and I was making time to like put my daughter to bed and stuff like that, but she needed more than that.
Yeah,
You know, my husband needs more than that.
Yeah.
I need more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if I'm working out in the mornings at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not answering emails.
Yeah.
I leave my phone plugged into the speaker, and I don't even wear my Apple Watch sometimes because I don't want to see the notification.
Yeah.
Or feel the vibrate of an email. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I definitely was overwhelmed. I enjoy it. Like what I do wakes me up at night. Like, oh my God, I gotta write that down. Oh my God, I gotta email my marketer. Oh my God, I gotta.
But quality of life becomes like, so like, it becomes like, what's success, right? Like, so you talk to me at different parts of my life and I'll give you a different answer. And success now to me means winning together and having those memories. Like this weekend, I spent a lot of time with my youngest son. He had a basketball tournament, and I'm a basketball fanatic.
Yeah.
And it was just me and him because wifey was, general contracting the house, and she was doing that, and it really put me in a good place for Monday.
Right.
Like, I can tell, and again, it's a game of self-awareness. I'm still becoming self-aware. There's certain parts of me that I'm still trying to learn and master, where I'm like, yo, man, everything else is all right. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not, even if the fucking world is burning, but if your equilibrium is there, if you're like in a good place, you can handle it better.
Absolutely.
And you got to find out what those things are that give you that. And for me, it's quality time with the family. And this weekend was him. Maybe next weekend, me and wifey go out for dinner by ourselves. And those things, there's a, like we're complicated people, and we have different needs, and we might not be aware of it because with the hustle culture, and I'm all about the hustle culture. Don't forget that. Like you're like, yo, I gotta do this, I have to make $1 million. Yeah, but if your wife leaves you, bro, what you doing with the $1 million? You know what I'm saying? Like, who do you spend it with, right? Or your kids don't know you, then what'd you really do it for? So that's my answer now in my 40s. In my 20s, it was like, I don't care. I gotta make it happen. I gotta make it happen. So going back to my statement, you don't know what you don't know, because as you grow as a person, you become self-aware. And when you said that, I saw myself in that, where I'm like, I remember that. I remember when, she'd be like, yo, why is the answer so short? I just say good morning. And it's because of all the bullshit I let get smacked on my face early in the morning, which becomes a disciplinary thing where I gotta be like, yo, put that down. I do stretching, then I do my workout, then I start my day now. Like, I used to just pick up the phone first. Now I do my little stretching thing, because as you get older, you get tighter. And then you work out to get some stress out your body, and then you can deal with it. And I think it's important to get your routine, because people, if you only do one thing all day, there's gonna be such a deficiency in everything else. And you gotta kind of figure that out. And nobody can tell you how to make it work for you, because you have a young daughter now, right? I have older sons.
Right.
And
the demand is different.
Right, the demand is different. The relationship, what they need me for is different, right? And I have a 20-year marriage where the needs are different. So you got to become aware of that. Like, I know some really successful people on their 5th wife.
Right.
And I'm like, yo, player. He's like, yeah, she took half. I'm like, yeah. You see a pattern? And they're like, oh, you think? I'm like, 5, bro, 5. You got, it's like the NBA championships. You got 5 wives now. Like, there's a pattern, bro. I was like, but some people don't want to change. That's the real secret. Some people, they're happy in their misery, or they're super rich and still miserable, and they can't see past the grass. Or what do they say? You can't see past the forest, see the trees. Yeah. Can't see it. I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh, 20 years. I'm like, yeah, 20 years. I was like, yo, work. Don't get me wrong, work. We didn't always, like sometimes she's here, I'm here, or vice versa. But there was a mutual respect there, and that's what I think kind of held it together. Her in the beginning, me now, I think, like I became, they say what, like women are like 5 years more mature than men?
Obviously. Okay,
obviously. So then, yeah, she was more mature in the beginning, and I'm catching up now, I think.
Yeah, it's a matter of give and take, and like I said before, you gotta be open to criticism. You gotta be open to somebody sitting you down and saying, this is what you're doing wrong, especially if that person is your spouse.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta be open to that. This is the person that you're investing your time and your life in. You gotta care what they think.
That's the person that knows you the best.
Yeah. They see parts of you that nobody else has seen.
Right.
Pieces of you, days and moods and,
the good and the bad.
Everything, everything. And they're there next to you throughout it all. So you have to consider them. So yeah, we don't have 20 years under our belt, but
you'll get there.
We will.
It happens. You blink your eyes. You'll be there. Yeah.
But, you know, I am thankful for the journey we've already had. And, you know, I am receptive to couples like you and other couples that we've done dinners with and just created a relationship with who are also successful. You just find that on this journey, you start kind of gravitating towards like-minded people. So we've been around couples that have said, oh, yeah, we went through that hurdle, girl. We did that. Now, every Friday, we go out to dinner.
Right.
Or once a month, we have a night out, just, you know, like a weekend away.
Well, they say success leaves clues, right?
Yeah.
So if you and like in business, like using this as an analogy, like you would go to a more uber successful person and kind of see what he does and kind of put it into your thing, right? Incorporate it into your life, and then it's the same thing with everything.
It is. It is. So we've, you know, again, it's a journey. We've been doing that. We work together. I find that for me, my happiest moments are with my family.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy doing what I do for my clients, but what's it for? It's for my family, really.
So when you're with your family, you can be the best version of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I took my daughter to the Kentico Dam on Sunday, and then we did ice cream. And that was the freaking highlight of the weekend.
Right,
you know,
right,
I mean, it's...
And she'll remember all that.
Exactly.
She'll remember all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I think my son will remember me going to Harlem with him and walking, like he was in Washington Heights. Oh my God. You know, he's from Pelham Bay, the Bronx, which is really a nice area of the Bronx. And
Not
now,
the Heights, though.
Yeah. And he's like, yo, Dad, all these people. I was like, yeah, all these people. He's like, yo, they just hang out here on the street playing dominoes? I'm like, yeah, bro, this is their backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
It was such a culture shock for him, but I was glad to be able to share it with him because that's what I grew up around. So to me, it's so regular. He was like, yo, this is cool, it's safe? I'm like, yeah, it's safe. He's like, that's not a Mr. Softy truck. No, I'm like, it says ice cream truck. I was like, he didn't want to pay the trademark for Mr. Softy. So I had to I'm breaking it all down because he's looking like he's a visitor in this world. I'm like, yo, bro, this is life. You
know, that's something that has been in the back of my mind in terms of my daughter, right? Like I want her, it's a generational thing, right? We're climbing. Each generation is getting further removed, really, from where we started.
Absolutely.
But I don't really want her to be too removed. So I like grounding her sometimes. Like, let's take you back to, we're gonna take a stroll around Soundview, where mommy grew up, and we're gonna go to the park over there, just to explore. Her dad lives in Harlem, so that helps too. I just don't want her to lose touch with where we came from, because eventually the empire is gonna be left to her, right? My goal is for her to not know what a resume is.
Oh, beautiful, okay.
So if I'm doing that, she got to understand where it all originated from to really appreciate the position she's in, as opposed to being a trust fund baby that thinks she's entitled to it all, because she's not.
Yeah, you got to give them a piece of reality, because they have to understand, like, and me and my wife go through this all the time with the kids, like, they don't know anything else, right? So they're like, oh, I can't get that? Well, why not?
Right.
I'm like, what? Who are you talking to? Right. And they're like, well, Dad, we can get that. We're rich. I'm like, we're not rich. I was like, we work. Right. If I was rich, I'd be in Aruba.
I'd be on a yacht right now, not talking to you.
Right. I leave you with your nanny and like some of my other friends that have nannies. And I'm like, no, man, look, I just work really hard, and I work hard to give you something, but I want you to always understand where you are, where you stand in life. I was like, because, you're still brown. I tell them that all the time. I was like, and now we're in it's a Hasidic element to it. It's nice. It's different. It's different. We're the token brown person there, I think. And like, he gotta understand that. Like, I want you to be aware. I want you to be aware. And I'm not in a bad way, but like, they have to understand, right? They have to understand. So
absolutely. So you know what I do with my 7-year-old? She knows, she comes home from school, she does her homework, she'll have a snack, does her homework. I have a home office, so she comes into my office and she empties out all the garbage cans. And if there's documents in the shred bin, she shreds them. That's her job. Okay. And you empty that shred bin. And then every Friday she gets paid her $5. And she saves her money.
Slave labor. I love it.
Hey, listen. It worked for me.
You learn it. Character. It's character building, baby.
Character building.
Yeah, character building.
But, it's teaching her. It's teaching her the value in her time and in her money.
Yeah, and then she's going to be exposed to different people. And I'm just telling you from where I'm seeing it. Like, I have my kids, one's at Fordham Prep, one's at NYU now. And, there's other kids with very different lifestyles. Yeah. Very different. Like, during COVID, one of the kids from the prep will call my son every day. And I was like, yo, what's up with him? He's like, yo, his parents are in Europe. They got locked over there. He's here with his nanny. He's like, he don't have nobody here. And I'm like, yeah, it's not for him. I was like, that's not for you. That's never gonna happen. But I think that's the Latino in me, right? Like, I'm like, I'll never, but yeah, like, who knew? They were in Italy, they got locked down. and you have
they
a
were
kid
stuck.
over here in New York by himself, like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old with a nanny, and nannies have to leave too. Like it's not like.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have all this wealth, but they don't have somebody there to hold them when it's a time of crisis. Because during the beginning of COVID, it got scary.
Yeah,
like
it
the
did. Nobody knew what to
the runs on
expect.
the toilet paper. I'm talking about like going to the supermarket,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the rationing. Like I was like, wow, it's kind of crazy. Like it was certain days were like a movie until it all kind of subsided. Imagine not being there with them, right?
Oh
like,
yeah, no, I can't imagine that.
Yeah,
I
holding
can't
them
imagine
down.
that.
Yeah.
What do you think COVID taught you? In terms of business, in terms of life and family?
I had an epiphany in March, and I called JC early. I was like, yo, everybody's on the phone. I was like, nobody's doing anything else. I was like, we got to triple down. And I went.
Oh, I noticed.
I went triple down.
Every time I opened social media, it was Omar's face.
Triple down. I was like, yo, because I knew. So in '08, during the meltdown, the financial meltdown I'm talking about, is it was a lot slower because it was so many different parts. Like Lehman Brothers went out, and so banks were going out left, like
it was
weird.
Like a trickle effect.
Right, it was weird. This COVID, in 2 weeks, everybody shut down.
Yep.
So then I just had to look at, all right, where's the money still flowing? And I redirected the everything to that. And so just where's the money flowing? And so a lot of guys actually got out of the business, right? Because they had gotten in maybe a year before and things were like easy and pumping. But yo, after surviving '08, I'm a veteran. Like I was like, this ain't shit. I was like, all right, so let's do the marketing, let's do this, and FHA, Fannie Mae, so this is where we're going. And that's what I did. I pivoted, and then we did everything remote, which became a challenge in itself. But I was really lucky. Like, I like my wife, so a lot of people, you're spending a lot of time with somebody that maybe you didn't spend time with before, and there was a lot of divorce rates went up, I think. So I got really lucky. Like we ended up knowing that we liked each other a lot. So hanging out, but we had our routine, our workout routine, our this routine, our that routine, and give it to the fucking attorneys. They were closing deals in cars, right? You guys are doing the pull up, give me your package, sign it, I'll notarize. I'm watching you.
Yep.
Yeah,
parking lots.
But that shit
cars.
is great. But we survived.
We made it happen.
That's that to me was the crazy part. Like the closers, I was like, where you going? And they come in with the mat, the shield, the thing, the gloves, because they gotta get paid.
Gotta get it done.
One guy told me I'd rather die of COVID than starve. I was like, real. I was like, real.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. So that's what it taught me. Be resourceful. But because of my background in '08. It was very pragmatic. I just needed to know where the money was flowing. I saw the government was still buying agency bonds and this, so I was like, all right, let's focus our attention on that because that's still happening. The commercial market dried up. All the investors went away.
Oh yeah.
So
I had deals die because
the only thing, instead of the big institutional investors, you had the smaller portfolio lenders. Their interest rates were higher, but I was still able to move those deals over there and still close those deals. So that's how I was able to navigate that. The mitigation of loss was not as bad. It was a lot less than it could have been had I not known about these smaller banks. But I was on the internet Googling. I was talking to different my existing lenders. Yo, you know anybody who'll do this? They're like, oh, call this guy. So it became the network. The relationships that I built helped me get through it. That's exactly what happened.
And elevate.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. For me, it was, like you said, resourceful. I had to be resourceful. I had to figure it out. And I had a daughter at home who was doing homeschooling.
Right. Wow, yeah.
Madison was definitely doing Zoom calls or her Google Meets from my car while I was doing showings.
Wow.
She was sitting with me at closing tables. I had no other option, no alternative. Everybody's separated in a different room. All right, fine. My daughter's right next to me and she's doing her Google Meet in a closing.
Right.
So you just gotta get it done.
Yeah.
So it also taught me though to stop and evaluate. You gotta stop. Sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, it can't always be a go, 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 go. At what point do you stop and say, all right, how far did I come? What could I have done better?
How much effort did it take me to get there?
Right.
Yeah,
how much money?
Yeah.
Where are the resources going? Where can I better allocate them? So now, at the end of every quarter, I'm shutting down for a day or two and evaluating and instilling whatever it is that I need to instill. So I did that for the first time at the end of the last quarter, and it was, let's just stop for a second. Let's see how the business did.
Let's take a look at numbers.
Right. Let's see, let's talk to the marketing team. Let's get the website going. What projects do we have? Okay, now let's set our goals.
Right.
So COVID taught me also to take a breather and evaluate.
Okay.
So
I wrote an ebook during COVID.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. That's because we had a lot of time.
Yeah.
We had so much fucking time. Yeah, like what can I do? And let's write an ebook. Let's write an ebook. I wrote an ebook and I send it out through the website. It's for free, but it become resourceful, not have a lack of resources. Just be like, yo, this is what we have. What can I do with it?
Exactly.
Yeah, what can I do with it? And the people that were able to switch that gear, they thrived.
Yeah.
And the people that didn't or couldn't, because hospitality, they took a super hit that they couldn't control it.
Right.
They
tanked.
Unfortunately they tanked. They had to get the stimmy money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Stimmy money.
I think that my background, your background, our childhood helped in being resourceful.
Well, I think, look, it really comes down to this, right? And so my kids are developing talents or skills that I didn't develop because I had no need for them. But when I grew up, we grew up with such a little bit of whatever, and we were always told, oh, don't look at that, it's too expensive. Mm-hmm. So we figured out how to do as much as we can with as little as possible, right? Mm-hmm. So that becomes the resource. So just go to COVID, yo man, we don't have meet the face-to-face anymore. We have this, all right, so what do we have? Oh, we have this, all right, well, with this, I'm gonna do as much as I can. And that just becomes the attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think even if you grew up with money and you understand how to make more money, then it'll work. But the people that just grew up having shit, they fell apart. They fell apart hard.
Yeah,
they fell apart hard.
It was tough. It was tough for them. But I definitely agree with you. Like having, not to say that I went hungry. My grandparents never let us go hungry. But they were resourceful.
Yeah.
There's a reason when my grandmother passed away and I asked my grandfather, okay, which casket would you like to pick for her? He's like, oh.
He said gold.
He said, no, the opposite. He goes, that's a lot of money. I don't know. I said, well, do you know how much you have in your bank account? He had no idea.
He's like, I don't count that big.
Yeah, seriously, he had 6 figures in his bank account. He had no idea. I'm like, you got a gold encrusted coffee, whatever you want.
Right.
And it was because they were resourceful. Just because they had it didn't mean they spent it.
So it's not a lack of resources. You're just not resourceful. That's the nugget. That's the nugget.
Honestly, if you want to make money, there's money out there to be made. You want to meet people, there are people out there that are willing to help.
I did a shout out clip last week to the people that sell water on the side of the streets.
Yeah.
I love those people. I love those people that are like, this lady was selling, because all right, so I won't buy something that like is not in a container because, self-preservation. But, I'll pay. I've given the lady $20 for 2 Red Bulls. Because she's out there, man. It's like 100 degrees out here. You think she wants to be out here? I'm sure she has kids to feed, and she's doing what she can do. And I love that.
Even when they're out there with their kids. I was on Pelham Parkway.
That's even harder now. I'll start crying. I'll be like, hey, take all my money. Take all my money. Yeah.
Yeah, this kid had the mangoes on Pelham Parkway.
Yep.
And I'm like, you gotta give it to them.
Yep.
You gotta give it to them.
So be resourceful.
Absolutely.
All right. So Jessica, where can they find you if they need a no joke attorney/realtor, because you bring the legal expertise to your real estate practice, which is something that you can't even metric, right? Where can people reach you? Like what's the best site? Speak to the camera.
Okay, so right now the best form of communication is really social media, right? So you can find me on Facebook, just search my name, Jessica Figueroa, I'm gonna pop up. You can search me on Google, search my name, I'm gonna pop up, Jessica M. Figueroa. If you search on Instagram, it's JFigCo. For Jessica Figueroa Cologne. But you can totally find me. I'm always available. Any questions you have, my number's there, my email's there, just reach out. No question is a stupid question. I don't even have to be a party in your deal. If you have a question, ask me and I will help. So I think that's the best way. I'm working on my website for North Antonio Properties.
Yeah?
So that'll be up and running. I want to say within the next month.
Do you have a Jessica Figueroa, JFigCo website?
I don't.
You need to get one of those.
I got Jessica Figueroa on lock, but I just don't have the website up.
You gotta get it. I know people that can help you with that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, there you have it. See you next one. Jessica, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.